The Dominion fleet emerged from hyperspace, their sleek vessels arranging into attack formation as they approached the small blue planet. Another primitive world to add to our collection. Fleet Commander Tejo remarked, his mandibles clicking with anticipation. Scan for defensive capabilities. Minimal orbital defenses detected, reported Science Officer Minji. One artificial satellite network, rudimentary weapons systems. They call this planet Earth. Tahoe's 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of satisfaction among his kind. The Dominion had conquered 17 worlds in the past cycle alone. This Earth would be no different. He straightened his armored carapace and moved closer to the main view screen. Show me their most advanced military installation, he ordered. The screen shifted to display a small research outpost orbiting Earth's moon. Humans in bulky white suits moved slowly between simple modules. Their technology was centuries behind Dominion standards. Pathetic, Tahoe said. Target their lunar outpost. Minimal firepower. I want them to see what they're facing before we begin negotiations. Weapons locked, Commander, the weapons officer reported. Fire. Green plasma bolts streaked across space, striking the lunar outpost. The structure didn't completely disintegrate. Tahoe had ordered a warning shot, but several modules ruptured, spilling their contents into the vacuum. Human bodies floated lifelessly among the debris. Open a channel to their planetary leaders, Tahoe ordered. Standard surrender terms. They have 1 rotation to comply before we escalate. Commander. Minji's voice was sharp with alarm. Something is approaching from Earth. Show me. The view screen shifted again, displaying what appeared to be empty space. I see nothing, Tahoe said impatiently. Sensors detect a massive object, but Minji was interrupted as space itself seemed to bend. Where nothing had been visible before, a massive ship suddenly appeared. It was unlike any vessel Tahoe had ever seen. Where Dominion ships were organic in design, with smooth curves mimicking the exoskeletons of their creators, this human ship was a study in contrasts. Parts were angular and sharp, while others curved gracefully. Strange protrusions dotted its hull, glowing with blue energy. Size comparison, Tahoe asked, mandibles clicking nervously now. The human vessel is approximately 3 times larger than our command ship, Minji reported, her voice unsteady. Energy readings are impossible. Our sensors must be malfunctioning. Dominion vessels, this is Captain Hyun of the United Earth ship Nemesis, came a calm female voice across all communication channels. You have attacked a peaceful research installation. Power down your weapons and withdraw. Tahoe chittered to his crew, a sound that served as laughter among his species. 1 ship. Against our fleet, your species' arrogance will be its downfall. He turned to his weapons officer. All ships, open fire. Full power. Let's show these humans what real technology looks like. The Dominion fleet responded immediately. 42 warships fired simultaneously, thousands of plasma bolts converging on the human vessel. The barrage was enough to reduce a small moon to rubble. The Nemesis disappeared in a blinding flash as the weapons found their mark. Tahoe's inner eyelids closed to protect against the glare. When he opened them again, he expected to see floating debris. Instead, the Nemesis remained exactly where it had been, completely untouched. Impossible, Minji shouted, frantically checking her instruments. The energy simply disappeared, absorbed somehow. Final warning, Captain Hyun's voice was steady. Withdraw now. Tahoe felt fear for the first time in many cycles, but anger quickly replaced it. No primitive species would threaten the Dominion. All ships, all weapons, continuous fire, he ordered. The Dominion fleet unleashed everything they had. Planet-cracking beams, quantum torpedoes, reality-warping missiles, weapons that had brought countless civilizations to their knees. The Nemesis absorbed it all without visible effect. When the barrage ended, Captain Hyun's sigh was audible over the communication channel. Weapons Officer Doyen, you may respond. A single pulse of blue energy emanated from the human ship. It looked almost gentle, a ripple spreading outward. When it touched the first Dominion vessel, the ship simply vanished. No explosion, no debris. It simply ceased to exist. Two more ships disappeared in the same manner before the pulse dissipated. Panic erupted on Tahoe's command deck. Officers screamed at their terminals, some abandoning their posts entirely. Silence. Tahoe roared, bringing order back to his crew. He activated the communication channel. "Human vessel, we did not understand your technological superiority. The attack was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding that killed 27 scientists," Captain Hyun replied. Her face appeared on the view screen now. She was surprisingly similar to Tahoe's species, despite having only 2 eyes and soft skin instead of a proper exoskeleton. Her expression was cold. "Those deaths were regrettable," Tahoe said, trying to sound diplomatic. "But surely your response is disproportionate. 3 ships destroyed, hundreds of lives." "Your ships were not destroyed, Commander," Hyun interrupted. "They were displaced. We don't kill unnecessarily." "Displaced? Where?" "We sent them back to your homeworld. They'll arrive in approximately 3 days, given the limitations of your faster-than-light technology." Tahoe's mandibles dropped open in shock. The human ship had somehow transported 3 warships across dozens of light years instantly. "How is this possible?" he asked, forgetting protocol in his astonishment. Captain Hyun's expression didn't change. "The Nemesis represents the combined technological achievement of a unified Earth. When we detected your approach 6 months ago, we accelerated our timeline." 6 months? You built this ship in 6 months? "No, Commander. We've been building the Nemesis for 10 years. 6 months ago, we made it combat-ready when we detected your scout ships." Tahoe remembered the small probe they had sent. They thought it had gone unnoticed. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now you leave Earth space and never return," Hyun said. "Or we demonstrate what the Nemesis can do when we're not being merciful." Tahoe looked around his command deck. His crew waited for his decision. The Dominion had never retreated before, but they had never faced anything like the Nemesis. "We will withdraw," he said finally. "But the Dominion Council will hear of this. They will not allow such a threat to exist." "We're counting on it," Captain Hyun replied, and terminated the connection. As the Dominion fleet retreated into hyperspace, Tahoe couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed. In his 20 cycles of service, he had helped subjugate dozens of worlds. But this planet, this Earth, was different, and he feared what that difference might mean for the future of the Dominion. The Grand Chamber of the Dominion High Council fell silent as Supreme Commander Juwon slammed his fist on the obsidian table. His exoskeleton gleamed under the harsh lights, polished to a mirror finish that reflected his rage. "How is this possible?" he demanded, glaring at the assembled leaders. "One human ship destroyed half our invasion fleet." Former Fleet Commander Tahoe, now stripped of rank after his failure, stood at the center of the chamber. His once proud posture was now hunched, his mandibles clicking nervously. "The Nemesis doesn't operate according to known physics," Tahoe said quietly. "Their defensive systems absorbed our energy weapons. Their offensive capabilities." He shuddered visibly. "I've never seen anything like it." The 63 members of the council murmured among themselves. In 10,000 cycles of Dominion expansion, no species had ever repelled a first contact assault. "Show us," ordered Juwon. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. The footage began playing, captured from Tahoe's command ship before retreat. The assembled council watched in stunned silence as the Nemesis methodically disabled Dominion warships one by one. Blue pulses of energy caused ships to simply vanish. Strange beam weapons cut through Dominion shields as if they weren't there. When the Dominion ships attempted to surround the Nemesis, it seemed to fold space itself, appearing instantly on the other side of the battlefield. "This cannot be allowed to stand," Juwon said when the footage ended. "If word spreads that a single ship defeated us, Our subjugated worlds might rebel. We should gather the Grand Fleet, suggested War Minister Neri. 2,000 ships should be enough to overwhelm even this anomaly. Tahoe's mandibles clicked rapidly, a warning sign. Honored ministers, you don't understand. This vessel doesn't just have superior technology. It operates on principles we don't comprehend. We fired enough energy to crack a small moon. The Nemesis absorbed it all, then used that same energy against us. Are you suggesting we do nothing? Juwan's voice was dangerous. I suggest we learn more before attacking again, Tahoe said. Or we risk losing not just ships, but perhaps the Dominion itself. Aboard the UES Nemesis, Captain Hyun studied the alien sitting across from her in the conference room. The Dominion officer, captured when his escape pod was disabled, had 6 eyes arranged in a circle around what served as his head. His exoskeleton was greenish-blue, with intricate patterns that Hyun now knew indicated rank and lineage. Your name is Jeju, correct? She asked. The alien nodded stiffly. Third Battle Leader Jeju. I demand to be treated according to Dominion protocols for captured officers. We have no interest in harming you, Hyun assured him. In fact, I wanted you to understand exactly what you're facing. She gestured to the man sitting beside her. Chief Engineer Junho, explain the quantum displacement field to our guest. Junho smiled. He was younger than most of the senior staff, with a perpetual look of excitement that hadn't diminished since the Nemesis first launched. 10 years ago, Earth nations realized we weren't alone in the universe, he began. Instead of fighting each other, we pooled resources to build this ship. The Nemesis represents every cutting-edge technology humanity has developed. He activated a holographic display showing the ship's internal systems. Our quantum systems can absorb energy, our AI can predict attack patterns, and our weapons. He paused, looking at Jeju. Well, you saw what they can do. Giju's mandibles trembled slightly. This is just one ship. How many more do you have? Just the one, Captain Hyun replied honestly. For now. That's impossible, Jeju said. No species would invest so much in a single vessel. That's where you're wrong, Hyun said. Humanity was divided for most of our history. Nations, religions, ideologies. We fought each other endlessly. But when we detected your scout ships approaching our system, everything changed. Science Officer Minna entered the conference room, her tablet displaying rows of alien text. Captain, I've analyzed their database, she reported. The Dominion has conquered 17 species across 12 star systems. They've enslaved billions. Captain Hyun's expression hardened. Then it seems the Nemesis has found its purpose. She turned back to Jeju. Your leaders believe conquest is the natural order of things. We're going to show them a different way. In his private chambers, Supreme Commander Juwan reviewed the invasion plans. 2,000 ships, the largest fleet ever assembled in Dominion history, would converge on the human system in 15 cycles. An aide entered, bowing low. Commander, we've received a transmission. From Earth. Show me, Juwan ordered. A holographic screen appeared, showing Captain Hyun of the Nemesis. Supreme Commander Juwan, she said, I understand you're planning another attack. Juwan hissed in surprise. How could she know this? We've analyzed your communication networks. Him continued, as if reading his thoughts. Your encryption is impressive, but our AI systems are more so. What do you want, human? Juwan demanded. To avoid unnecessary bloodshed. We've studied your history, Commander. The Dominion was once a peaceful civilization. Your conquest began only after the resource wars that nearly destroyed your homeworld. Juwan felt cold fear spreading through his body. How could they know this? Even most Dominion citizens were unaware of their true history. You believe conquest is your only path to survival, Hyun said. We're offering an alternative. Technology sharing, cultural exchange, a different way forward. You expect me to believe humans would share their technology? Juwan scoffed. After we attacked you. We built the Nemesis because we feared what was out there, Hyun replied. We were right to be cautious, but wrong to think violence was inevitable. We're giving you a choice, Commander. The transmission ended, leaving Ji-won staring at empty space. Do you think they'll listen? Juno asked as Hyun returned to the bridge. Probably not, she admitted. The Dominion has spent too long conquering others. They won't change overnight. Then why offer peace? Because we need to try, Hyun said. If we use the Nemesis only as a weapon, we're no better than they are. Mina approached with new data. Captain, I've identified 7 worlds currently under Dominion control where resistance movements are active. The closest is the Tirius system, 3 light-years from here. Captain Hyun studied the star chart. Navigation Officer Daein, set course for Tirius. Chief Engineer Juno, prepare the quantum displacement field. We may need to demonstrate it again. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. The Nemesis had been designed for exploration, but its first mission had become something else. Liberation. If the Dominion won't accept peace, Hyun said quietly, then we'll need to change the balance of power, one world at a time. The great ship's engines hummed to life, preparing to bend space itself as it headed toward its new destination, and the next chapter in humanity's unexpected role as galactic liberators. The central Dominion world of Karis was in an uproar. Citizens filled the streets, their 6 eyes turned skyward. Military personnel rushed to their posts. Government officials gathered in emergency sessions. The cause of this chaos hung in the sky above the capital city, a single human ship that had appeared without warning. The Nemesis floated in low orbit, its massive hull blocking part of the sun and casting a shadow over Government Square. Its strange design, part angular, part curved, stood out starkly against the organic architecture of Karis City below. In the Planetary Defense Control Center, Grand Admiral Kyung pounded his fist against the command console. His exoskeleton rattled with the force of his anger and fear. Impossible, he shouted, mandibles clicking rapidly. Our homeworld is 30 light-years from Earth. They couldn't have traveled here so quickly. His staff cowered before his rage. No one wanted to be the bearer of more bad news. Admiral, Science Consul Yoonji said cautiously, the human vessel bypassed all our defense systems. No hyperspace signature was detected. No warp field. Nothing. It simply appeared. Ships don't just appear, Kyung roared. Yet there it was, the Nemesis, hovering above their capital city like a dark promise. Screens throughout the control center suddenly activated on their own. The same happened in homes, public spaces, and government buildings across the planet. The face of a human female appeared, Captain Hyun of the Nemesis. People of the Dominion. Her voice was calm but firm. We come with an offer of peace, despite your attacks on our people. Your empire was built through conquest. Ours will not be. Kyung hissed at a communications officer. Cut this transmission. We can't, sir. They've overridden all our systems. On the other side of the control center, Science Consul Yoonji frantically analyzed data streaming in from the Nemesis. Her 6 eyes blinked rapidly in sequence, a sign of extreme distress among her kind. They've somehow harnessed quantum entanglement for transportation, she whispered, almost to herself. It's theoretical technology. We're centuries away from such capabilities. Explain, Kyung demanded. Yoonji looked up from her console. They're using quantum principles to fold space itself. No need for hyperspace or warp technology. They simply connect 2 points in space-time and step through. Is that how they bypassed our defenses? Yes, Admiral. Our detection systems look for conventional propulsion signatures. The Nemesis doesn't use conventional anything. Kyung turned to his weapons officer. Deploy the planetary defense grid. All weapons. Target that ship. Across Karis, thousands of defense platforms activated. Particle cannons, plasma launchers, and quantum disruptors, all designed to protect the Dominion homeworld from any threat, now targeted the single human vessel. On screens across the planet, Captain Hyun continued her broadcast. We've studied your history. Your technological progress stagnated because you steal rather than innovate. You conquer rather than cooperate. Those words stunned many who heard them. For centuries, Dominion propaganda had portrayed their conquests as a civilizing force, bringing order to a chaotic galaxy. Few citizens questioned this narrative. Fewer still knew that much of their advanced technology had been taken from conquered worlds. In a quiet residential district, an engineer named Jinwoo watched the broadcast with growing interest. Unlike most citizens, he had access to historical archives through his work. He knew the humans' words held truth. The Dominion had once been great innovators before the resource wars led them down the path of conquest. Back at the Defense Control Center, Kyum gave the order. Fire. The defense grid activated simultaneously. Thousands of energy beams converged on the point where the Nemesis hung in orbit. The barrage was enough to destroy a small moon. But something strange happened. Just before impact, the Nemesis shifted position, not by moving conventionally, but by seeming to blink out of existence for a microsecond and reappear several kilometers away. The entire barrage missed, the energy weapons continuing into space. They predicted the firing solution perfectly, Yunji said in awe. Their computers must be processing at speeds we can't comprehend. On screens everywhere, Captain Hyun's expression remained unchanged. You should know, she concluded, the Nemesis wasn't built primarily as a warship. It's an exploration vessel. If this is what we built to explore the stars, imagine what we would build if we decided to wage war. The transmission ended, leaving screens blank across Karis. In the silence that followed, fear spread like a virus. In the government tower, Supreme Commander Juwon faced the Dominion High Council. 30 leaders of conquered worlds, some present physically, others as holograms, waited for his response to this crisis. The humans must be bluffing. War Minister Neri insisted. No species develops such technology without centuries of advancement. You saw what their ship did, Finance Minister Taman countered. They bypassed our defenses as if they didn't exist. Juwon raised a hand for silence. What are our options? Science Minister Minho stepped forward. We have 3 choices. First, we could attempt to destroy the Nemesis with our remaining weapons. However, given what we've seen, this has a low probability of success. Second option, we accept their offer of peace. Open diplomatic channels. A chorus of protests erupted from the war faction. Silence, Juwon ordered. The third option. Minho hesitated. We pretend to negotiate while gathering our forces. The Grand Fleet is scattered across our territory. It would take time to assemble, but 2,000 ships might overwhelm even this adversary. Juwon considered the options. Throughout his career, the Dominion had never retreated, never compromised. But they had never faced anything like the Nemesis. Back aboard the human ship, Captain Hyun studied the Dominion homeworld on the main view screen. The planet was beautiful. Blue oceans, green landmasses, white clouds swirling in complex patterns. They're mobilizing their planetary defense forces, reported Security Chief Hannah. Secondary weapons systems are coming online. Expected, Hyun said. They've built their society on military strength. They can't imagine another way. Captain, called Navigation Officer Daeyen, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from their moon. They appear to be activating some kind of super weapon. Chief Engineer Junho looked up from his console with concern. Our shields can absorb conventional weapons, but if they've got something exotic. Hyun nodded. Prepare quantum displacement. If they fire, shift us to the far side of their planet. What about our mission? Asked Science Officer Mena. We came to open diplomatic channels. And we will, Hyun assured her. But first, they need to understand that force won't work. Sometimes you have to speak the only language someone understands before teaching them a new one. The crew worked with quiet efficiency as the Nemesis prepared for whatever came next. They had journeyed across 30 light-years in an instant to deliver a message of peace, but they had come prepared for war, just in case. On Karis, the people watched and waited, wondering if this day marked the beginning of a new era or the beginning of the end. The message arrived while the Nemesis was still in orbit around Karis. It came encrypted on multiple frequencies, bouncing between abandoned relay stations to hide its origin. Humans, if you truly oppose the Dominion, help us. Communications Officer Yuno worked for hours to trace the signal. Captain, it's coming from Terius, a mining world 12 light-years from here. According to Dominion records, they conquered it 90 years ago. Captain Hyun studied the data on her tablet. Terius was rich in rare minerals needed for advanced technology. The native population, a species with 4 arms and skin that changed color with their emotions, had been enslaved to work in massive underground mines. How did they contact us? She asked. They'd been secretly building a communications array for years, Yuna explained, hidden in the deepest mines where Dominion scanners can't reach. Hyun made her decision quickly. Navigation, prepare for quantum jump to Terius. Within days, the Nemesis appeared in the Terius system, materializing in orbit around the dusty orange planet. From space, the mining operations were clearly visible, huge scars across the planet's surface. Captain Hyun assembled a small team in the ship's shuttle bay. Security Chief Sung-ho would lead the mission, along with 15 specialists in combat, medicine, and engineering. No lethal force unless absolutely necessary, she ordered as they prepared to board the shuttle. We're here to liberate, not conquer. Sung-ho nodded, checking his non-lethal weapon. Understood, Captain. We'll use the EMP devices to disable their control systems. The shuttle departed, using stealth technology to approach the main Dominion control center on the planet's surface. From their scans, they knew the facility housed only 200 Dominion personnel who controlled the automated systems that monitored 20 million Tyrian slaves. Using targeted EMP technology developed specifically for this mission, they disabled the Dominion control centers without firing a single shot. The complex security systems, automated guards, and communication arrays all went dark simultaneously. When the Dominion personnel emerged from their buildings, confused and frightened, they found themselves surrounded by humans with strange weapons and thousands of Tyrians whose skin had turned bright red with emotion. The liberation was bloodless. The Dominion soldiers surrendered quickly when they realized their automated defenses were useless and their communications with the fleet had been cut. The liberated Tyrians emerged from their work camps, looking at the humans with hope. Their skin shifted between yellow curiosity and blue gratitude. The Tyrian leader, an elder named Kodo, whose 4 arms were scared from decades in the mines, approached Sung-ho. For 90 years, we have waited for this day, Kodo said, his voice translated through a device Sung-ho carried. We had almost lost hope. Your message reached us, Sung-ho replied, and we came as quickly as we could. Meanwhile, back on Earth, construction had begun on 5 more ships using the Nemesis prototype. In shipyards once used for building aircraft carriers and submarines, new vessels took shape, each incorporating lessons learned from the Nemesis' first encounters. The United Earth Council debated their next steps. President Min addressed the assembly. We built the Nemesis for defense. Now we find ourselves in the position of liberators. The question facing humanity is, what will our role be in this new galactic landscape? Some argued for restraint, focusing only on protecting Earth and its immediate allies. Others pushed for a more active role in dismantling the Dominion Empire and freeing its subjugated worlds. The debate was interrupted by an urgent transmission from Captain Hyun. The Dominion had launched a desperate assault, committing every remaining warship to destroy the Nemesis. They're coming from all vectors, Captain, reported Navigation Officer Gina as the first Dominion ships appeared near Terius. 200 ships. On the Nemesis bridge, the crew worked with calm efficiency. They had trained for this scenario, though none had expected to face it so soon. Alert Status 1. Hyun ordered. Shield generators to maximum. The Dominion fleet approached in attack formation, a massive sphere closing in on the Nemesis from all directions. Their strategy was clear. They hoped to overwhelm the human ship with sheer numbers, firing from so many angles that even the Nemesis's advanced defenses would be overcome. They've learned from their previous encounters, Weapons Officer Do-hyun observed. This formation minimizes their vulnerability to our quantum displacement attacks. Captain Hyun nodded calmly. We don't need to destroy them all. Tactical Pattern Omega-6, Weapons Officer Do-hyun. The crew exchanged knowing glances. They had practiced Omega-6 in simulations, but never deployed it in combat. Initiating Omega-6, Do-hyun confirmed. What followed wasn't a display of overwhelming firepower, but a masterclass in tactical brilliance. The Nemesis began a complex series of short quantum jumps, appearing briefly at specific points within the Dominion formation before jumping to the next position. At each point, the ship fired precise, low-power shots at Dominion communication arrays and sensor systems. The Dominion ships, trying to track the rapidly moving target, began firing at the locations where the Nemesis had been, only to hit their own vessels on the opposite side of the formation. Their formation is breaking down, reported Science Officer Mena. 37 ships have taken friendly fire. 12 command vessels have lost communications. The Nemesis continued its dance, never staying in one place long enough to take significant fire. When Dominion ships tried to adapt by holding their fire until they confirmed target location, the Nemesis would pause just long enough to disable key systems before disappearing again. They're trying to regroup, Jinna said, forming into smaller clusters for protection. Perfect, Hyun replied. Initiate Phase 2. The Nemesis suddenly appeared at the exact center of the Dominion fleet. Before the enemy ships could react, it emitted a powerful electromagnetic pulse, not enough to permanently damage the vessels, but sufficient to temporarily disable their weapons and propulsion. As the Dominion ships drifted powerless, Captain Hyun opened a channel to the fleet commander. Your ships will regain power in approximately 10 minutes, she said. By then, we could have destroyed every vessel in your fleet. We choose not to. Consider this demonstration proof that your tactics cannot succeed against us. Within hours, the mighty Dominion fleet had surrendered, not to superior firepower, but to superior thinking. The captains of 200 warships, the elite of Dominion society, now faced a reality they had never imagined: defeat without destruction. On Terius, the former slaves watched in awe as the Dominion ships retreated from their system. For the first time in nearly a century, they were free. And aboard the Nemesis, Captain Hyun received another message, this one from a different enslaved world, having heard of the events at Terius. Humans, we too seek freedom. Will you help us? The galactic balance of power had shifted, not through overwhelming force, but through the strategic application of advanced technology and the power of hope. 6 months had passed since the battle at Terius. 6 months of rapid change across the galaxy. The once mighty Dominion had fractured into dozens of territories. Without their military might to maintain control, subjugated worlds declared independence one after another. Some former Dominion officials tried to hold on to power, but their efforts failed without the backing of the central government. Captain Hyun stood on the observation deck of the Nemesis, her hands clasped behind her back as she gazed through the massive viewport. Below, on the surface of the neutral world of Valis, representatives from 27 species gathered in a great crystal dome. They had come to sign the charter for a new galactic council, an alliance of equals, not conquerors and conquered. The observation deck was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Most of the crew had gone to the surface to witness the historic event. Hyun had chosen to watch from above, finding a strange peace in the distance. First Officer Ji-hoon entered the deck, stopping beside her at the viewport. The signing ceremony begins in an hour, he said. The council is requesting your presence. Hyun nodded but didn't move. I'll be there. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the ships from various worlds orbiting Valis. Vessels of all shapes and sizes, some organic-looking like the Dominion ships, others geometric, some nearly transparent. The diversity was breathtaking. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when we launched?" asked Jihoon. Hyun considered the question. Honestly, no, she admitted. We built the Nemesis because we feared what was out there. We designed it to be the ultimate deterrent, a ship so advanced that no one would dare attack us. Instead, it became a symbol of liberation, Jihoon observed. Below them, on a landing pad near the Crystal Dome, 3 new ships from Earth had touched down. Unlike the Nemesis, these vessels were sleeker, with fewer weapons emplacements and more transparent surfaces to allow views of space. Earth had launched its diplomatic fleet, vessels designed for cultural exchange rather than combat. The refit begins next week, Jihoon said. Engineering teams are preparing the specifications now. The Nemesis itself was being recommissioned, many of its weapons systems replaced with scientific equipment. The quantum displacement technology that had allowed it to move instantly between star systems would now serve exploration rather than tactical advantage. I spoke with Security Chief Sung-ho this morning, Jihoon continued. He's accepted the position on Tirius, helping them build their defense force. Hyun nodded. Several crew members had chosen to remain on liberated worlds, using their knowledge to help rebuild societies free from Dominion control. Others had requested transfers to the new diplomatic vessels. "And what about you?" she asked Jihoon. "Will you stay with the Nemesis when we return to exploration?" "Where else would I go?" he replied with a smile. "There's still so much to see out there." In the dome below, representatives were taking their seats, the Tyrians with their 4 arms and color-changing skin, the methane-breathing loci with their crystalline exoskeletons, the massive Vroon, whose single eye took up most of their face, and dozens of other species, many seeing each other for the first time outside of Dominion control. Among them were humans, not just from the Nemesis, but the first diplomatic teams from Earth. Scientists, artists, historians, engineers, all eager to learn from and share with other civilizations. "The greatest weapon humanity possesses isn't our technology," Hyun said, watching the diverse species below finding common ground. "It's our adaptability, our capacity to change our minds." The signing ceremony began, broadcast on screens throughout the Nemesis. The first to sign was Kodo, the Tyrian elder who had sent the original plea for help. Next came representatives from worlds that had been under Dominion control for centuries. Last was the human delegate, President Min, who had traveled from Earth for this historic occasion. "There are still challenges ahead," Jihoon noted. 3 Dominion battle groups have refused to surrender. They're calling themselves the True Dominion. "They'll learn," Hyun said, "like we all have." Her mind drifted back to the day the Nemesis launched from Earth orbit. The fear that had gripped humanity after discovering they weren't alone in the universe. The resources poured into building a vessel that could defend their world from any threat. No one had predicted that the greatest threat wouldn't come to Earth, that instead, the Nemesis would bring Earth to the galaxy. "Captain," Jihoon said, checking his communicator. "They're requesting we join the ceremony. A formal recognition of the Nemesis's role in recent events." Hyun nodded and turned from the viewport. As they walked toward the shuttle bay, they passed through the ship's central corridor. Crew members stepped aside, nodding respectfully. Some had been with the Nemesis since its launch. Others had joined later. All had played a part in transforming the ship from a weapon into something more. In the shuttle bay, a small craft awaited to take them to the surface. Through the bay doors, Han could see the curve of Valis, its green-blue surface shimmering in the light of its sun. "New orders came through this morning," Jihoon said as they boarded the shuttle. "After the refit, our first mission will be to the unexplored regions beyond former Dominion space. Potential for first contact with species untouched by their influence." Hyun smiled at the thought. Actual exploration. Finally. As the shuttle descended toward the planet, Hyun watched the Nemesis growing smaller above them. Its imposing silhouette, once designed to strike fear, now seemed different somehow, protective rather than threatening. As the first charter of the new Galactic Alliance was signed, Hyun couldn't help but smile at the irony. Humanity had built the ultimate war machine, only to use it to forge peace. When the ceremony ended, she found herself approached by representatives from a dozen worlds, all with questions about Earth, about humans, about the future. "Will the Nemesis continue to serve as the Alliance's protector?" asked a Tyrian diplomat. "No," Hyun replied. "The Nemesis will return to its original mission, exploration. There are still countless worlds to discover, species to meet, knowledge to share." As night fell on Valis, the celebrations continued. Beneath stars that had once seemed threatening but now promised new beginnings, Captain Hyun raised a glass with beings from across the galaxy. Tomorrow, the Nemesis would begin preparations for its new role, and Captain Hyun would lead it to the stars, not as a harbinger of dread, but as an ambassador of possibility.